Hi there. Today's video is a little bit different to my usual in that this one was requested by my friend Kath. She wanted to know if I could show her how to do my style of art journaling, which is quite hard because I don't have a style yet. I have lots of different journals, lots of different styles. However, she managed to narrow it down to a very specific page she'd seen in my journal a few days before. And although I don't repeat a page I've already done, I knew that what she wanted was to have me include napkins and rice paper and lots of mixed media. So this is a journal she had been looking at. This page was not my design. This was by the wonderful Lally Mills, a class that she did, and if you could do it, I highly recommend it. I'll put a link in the description. This one I started with me doodling an octopus for no apparent reason, a vintage one, a chalk drawing one. You know, as you can see, I don't really have one style that I stick to. This one was done with napkins and Finnebar tissue paper. I can't show that one because it's a design team piece for someone else. This is the page Kath saw. She saw the rice paper and she really liked how it was blended in. That's a Stamperia thing, and those are Stamperia embellishments. This is my own personal one, the sky, deeply influenced by the class that I did with Lally Mills. And the next page is the page we're going to be working on. I actually have a little kit that I keep in a large pouch that I got from Finnebar, which has bits and bobs in it that I like to use for journaling. Scraps of paper from old books, music paper, tissue paper, things like this. There's a Stamperia rice paper, which I have quite a few of, and these bits of paper are out of my journaling kit. They're just random old book pages, little scraps, bits left over. So I'll be using these and the napkin that I put aside so that I can include napkins. It's got roses on it, which I thought went quite well with the rice paper. Although the colours are a little different, I'll be able to sort that out as we go. Now for gluing rice paper, you can get a very specific rice paper glue. For example, this one, also by Stamperia, as you can see, rice paper glue. However, because I'm going to be doing a lot of collaging, I am going to use this soft matte gel, because that way I can do the rice paper, the book pages, and anything else that I'm going to glue on as I progress. So firstly, I'm going to tear this in half so that I can put the other half onto the other page. To make sure that it doesn't tear where I don't want it to tear, I just keep my hand pressed down, and as you see, I can keep control of it sort of that way. Rice paper tears nicely, but it's also strong enough not to tear too easily. Another thing about rice paper is that often it looks really pretty if you have a white background and put it on over a white background, but because I'm aiming for a bit of a vintage look, I'm quite happy to have that colour of paper showing through it. It's going to blend in with my old book pages and things that I hope to use. So I'm just going to go ahead and glue everything on. I'm speeding up this video because gluing is a boring bit to watch. this part that I'm doing just now with all the book pages, etc. This is my main collage part. I'm not thinking about where everything's going too much. I'm just picking up bits, tearing them, popping them on in a reasonably random manner, and just making sure that what I do on one side, I kind of balance off a little bit on the other side. And now I'm going to make sure it's dry before I go on and do the decollage part. So decollage is pretty much how it sounds. I've collaged, now I'm going to uncollage it, and I'm just tearing random pieces off. Again, I don't want to think about it too much. I'm just going to pull bits off, and I'm going to keep some of the nicer, bigger bits to one side because they look really great sometimes when you reattach them to your project somewhere. It just adds to this look of layered old papers, you know, a bit like when you see a billboard area and the posters have been there and old ones have been torn down and new ones put up. So it's that kind of look that we're aiming for. So I'm just going to pull bits off here and there, and because I've glued it on really a bit too well, I've had to wet the paper a little bit just to get a grip. Oh, I kind of like that bit, so I'm going to try and rub off the paper there so that you can see that word shining through. And now I'm sort of going back to collage. So it's been collage, decollage and collage again. I'm taking some of these really cool bits that I tore off because I think they look lovely. And I'm going to reattach them somewhere. Again, I don't know where. I try not to think too much about it. I'm just going to get the glue and I'm going to start sticking and hope for the best, really. I do like this nice big bit. So I'm going to make sure that goes on somewhere. So I'm done there with collaging on the bits that I've taken off. I just want to make sure it's dry before I go on to the next step. I'm going to just trim off the excess bits of rice paper that were hanging over the edges. Okay, so the matte gel, it is matte, but it's still acrylic, so there's still this sort of slight plasticky feel and look to it. So I want to make a nicer, more matte, I wouldn't say gritty, but just a better base for any paints and things that I'm going to add. And I'm going to use clear gesso. I'll just put it over everything. It's an extra layer of protection and it's a really nice primer for any paint that I use from here on in. Just a wee extra layer there down the sort of the middle spine part, just to help protect any of the paint from seeping through to any previous pages or future pages. And again, I'm going to want to make sure that's dry before I carry on. I feel like that's dry enough, so I'm going to start with paints. These are Allegro paints by Stamperia. It's Old Ivory. And I think Cappuccino, yes, Cappuccino is the other one. I'm going to stick with those two colours at the minute because they go quite well with the colour palette so far. And I'm just using a large flat brush. I'm going to brush it on randomly. I'm going to not think about it too much, and I'll keep brushing until all the paint is off my brush before I go in and get more paint, so that anything that I put on is going to be patchy and it won't be the same thickness everywhere. It'll be nice, well, as I said before, quite random. For a bit of variety and a change of texture, I'm going to change from a brush and start using a palette knife. Just the same paints though, and just remaining with quite a random sort of feel. But this way I've got a variety of looks with the paint. It's different strokes, it's different thicknesses, and there's something a bit more textured about using the palette knife as well. And I have to say, at this stage, I'm very much aware, I suppose this is what you call the ugly stage. It really does look kind of a hot mess, but hopefully it will all come together. The whole point of building layers is that not each layer is going to be beautiful and perfect, otherwise you would want to stop after the first perfect layer. These layers are all going to come together and hopefully make something pretty when they're all overlapping each other. I'll just keep building the layers as I go. I'm going to want to start using some more paint. I'm using liquid acrylic this time, burnt sienna, and I'd like to try and create a sort of feeling of drips coming down the page in different places. Again, I'm trying to do things that'll look like it's aged, worn, been out in the weather for a long time, gotten dirty. I need my water spray with me, so I just put the paint on. I know I use the word randomly quite a lot here, but it really is. I don't think about it too far in advance. I just take the brush and I just go for it. So I've put it on where I've put it, I've sprayed the water, and I've tilted the page so that you get that drippy effect. And I'm going to do quite a wee bit of that, and then I'll come back and talk a bit more about what's next. So you can see that brown paint has dried in a lot lighter and softer than it looked when it was wet. So it really is blending more. It's adding to the vintage look, but it's not as overpowering as it might have appeared when I initially put the paint on. Okay, so I'm at the stage where I want to add a bit more colour, pattern, more flowers probably, because I feel that floral sort of theme could be being picked up on. I'll get my napkin ready. This is a 3-ply napkin, so I want to tear off the other 2 layers. It's sometimes tricky getting that second layer off, so I tear a little corner and I get hold of it, so that you've just got the top layer left, which has got a wee bit of a sort of see-through transparent quality to it, and it becomes more see-through when it gets wet and you glue it on. Quite pretty. But I also am thinking about my rub-ons. I have a drawer full of rub-ons. We won't talk about that too much, but I've just brought a few out to go through and have a look and think about what I could possibly use. Those sentiments have got a nice vintage look. A lot of these colours are probably a bit too bright. Those go quite well, but they're not roses, so I don't think so. But I quite like the vintage look of this packet here, so it's a definite possibility. But I've also got, oh yes, I have these 12 by 12 sheet, and I've already decided these are perfect. I'm going to use those. Hang on, let's have a look there. They're 49 in market as well. Art Options Rouge. I think that must be what range they're from, Rouge. And there you go, there's your designer. She's a hero of mine. I love all her work. So I'm going to just cut out the shapes I want to use. I know some people, we had a talk about this in one of Nanika's Patreon classes, but some people just take the full sheet and are able to rub on the bit they want without cutting it off, and I really cannot do that. So I'm going to cut out the pieces I think I will use, just roughly. It doesn't have to be great, because when you actually rub the transfer on, there isn't any excess or white. It's all translucent, so I don't have to detail cut it. So I've got these 2 bits, which I think are kind of cool. May not use both, but I'm definitely going to use this big one on here. And because it's see-through, and it's got some text on it as well, so it makes it look like it matches in with the book pages. I'm just going to rub this on. For the other side, I've decided I'd like to use that butterfly, and maybe pop a few other butterflies on here and there. Still undecided, but I'm definitely going to use that large butterfly. I'll put it over in the corner beside the other splash of colour there, just to carry that theme forward a bit. And now the napkins. So I don't like to cut the napkin out. I don't think many people do, because it's just too precise and then you see the hard edge. So I want to tear it out, and the easiest way is to use water on a paintbrush and just kind of draw around the shape. The water makes the napkin very weak, and when you pull, it just tears exactly where the water is, and that makes it nice and easy to cut. So there we go, a couple of pieces of roses from napkins. And I'm just going to go back to the soft matte gel that I was using before. But napkins tear really easily, especially when wet, so you can't be just as robust with it as you were with the rice paper. Once you've got it wet and you've got it stuck down, you need to try and not touch it too much, or it's just going to come away. I'm just wetting it there so it's a bit more translucent and I can see the book page underneath. Okay, so I'll leave that, don't touch it anymore. I'm very prone to touching things and ruining them after they're on. And I've got that little spare bit, so I'm just going to pop it on over there. And again, because I've been using the gel medium, which is acrylic and plasticky, I'm going to do the nice matte gesso over the top again, and it will also help protect the napkins that I've glued on, give a nice protective coating. And again, it's a primer for anything that comes next, although I'm unsure how much more I'm going to do. My thoughts on it are, roughly composition wise, that the main central focal point will go here, and I'll have some kind of sentiment over there, but it may not come out like that in the end. As a background, I feel it's actually looking not too bad, but I think I'd quite like to darken the edges in a sort of vignette type style, so I'm going to use Distress Oxide walnut stain. I'll just use a blending tool of some description and rub it straight into the edges of the book. I'll go slightly rounded on the corners, as I say, to give a slight vignette kind of a look to it. Because it's Distress Oxides, they oxidize with water, so I'm just going to give a little spray with water just to set them off in some parts, and then dry it. I can remove some of the water with a spare bit of napkin, and it leaves these nice little sort of patches where the water's been. I'm just looking at the composition of the background, deciding what I think, and I've noticed in the top right corner there's some what looks like sheet music in the rice paper, and I would like to reflect that over on the left hand side of the page. So I'm just going to glue these bits that have been torn out from a music book. Actually, this was from a Scottish country dancing music book that used to belong to my mother. She had a pile of them, which I inherited. So I've just torn a little strip out, popped them on in a couple of bits, and I'm using the same Distress Oxide to give them a more of a vintage look, so they blend in a bit more. I don't want them looking all white and new and shiny. So again, using that word random, I'm not being too careful about how I put the stain on. It's just, I don't want it to look too uniform. And little splash of water again. To further help that blend in, I'm going to go back to the paint. I'll just use my finger this time, but if you were doing something like this, you can obviously use a brush. I use my fingers quite a bit. I just want little bits here and there to blend in so that it looks like that bits of sheet music has always been there or always intended to be there, rather than stuck on a bit at the end, even though it was stuck on at the end. As a background, I kind of feel that that's done, and what needs to happen to it now will be the main focal points, which I'm undecided about. This is just an example. This is my great aunt Mima. I thought about her because of the sheet music, and my relationship with her relates greatly to music and dancing around her sitting room to an old music box. So I might do something like that, put a stack of some sort with her photo as a central point. I'm not sure that the colouring of that photograph is quite right for it. So there you go, Kath. That's your mixed media background using rice paper and napkins and a whole load of other things. I hope it's helpful to you. I did add, the first thing I added when doing my focal points was this, sharing things. I found it in amongst my magazine clippings, and I just thought, because this is about sharing a technique with a friend, that it was somehow quite appropriate. I just, after collaging it on and doing another 49 Market butterfly, went round it with some paint and some chalk. I tried out some compositions to see what I thought. This was one with my great aunt Mima again, but I did decide the colouring was wrong. I tried replacing the photo with a bit more of a bohemian gypsy one, but actually in the end I went a completely different way, and I cut out a huge butterfly from a Finnabar tissue paper. I collaged a butterfly on, and then I went round it with oil pastels, ordinary pastels, chalks, paint pens and such. And I cut out all the rest of the 49 Market butterfly rub-ons and from that sheet that I had, and added them and went over them with pen and chalk, etc. And I did a little bit of handwritten journaling. And that's how the page finished up. I just want to say thank you to my overseas online crafty friend who asked for the video. Thanks everybody. Bye.